yeah.
Hello, everyone. We are the Bats, and welcome to Together. Tim, Ashley, well, let's do it in order. Bella, Ashley, Tim, and Simone. Welcome to our series Together, where we are exploring what it means to work and be together in a synarchy, being alive in the energy of where we are. And I am so excited today for us to have a conversation about what's alive in the field.
Me too.
What's alive? What is alive? I like that you brought in the 44, Simone, because something that we haven't clued you guys in on that we discovered 2 times ago is I was looking at our charts, which the bats live in here, and I have everybody's chart in here so I can look and see, oh yeah, let's see what, who's this? Who is
Not
it?
me.
Bella. It's Bella. Not me. Too many centers defined.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we discovered is that we hold each line of the 44, no repeats. So I have like the first line, and I don't know, I can't name off what they all have, but 2 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then somebody has 3, and yeah, it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each of us has the whole, together we have the whole spectrum of the 44. So super exciting. I love it. Just wanted to share that.
And it's cool to be on the 44 right at the start of this conversation, because if I recall, we ended on the 44 at the very tail end of our last conversation too.
I like it.
Yeah, that's right.
There was no time in between.
In our Key Prosperity call, we were talking about how Neptune is our friend and can help us reveal things. And I was, we've been working on this, but we had not done a kind of a practical application with our own charts, consciously as we were building. And I looked down, I was like, oh, I've got the 44 in my Neptune. I'm like, yay, my attractor sphere is working. Team with you guys, and like I feel like I'm in a happy union and partnership, and
or we're actually really bad for you, and like Neptune is veiling this partnership and saying, yeah, let's bring her in here and let's see what happens.
Run, sister,
run away.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, the 44 has proven to be really useful. And it's taught us a lot. And the 42, I think, was the other one. I can't recall if that was something that we were looking at on our last episode of Together, but I know it's been super alive for us, in particular because of how it plays out for both Ashley and myself. I mean, there are these very definite energies that have kind of been swirling around this whole experience of Together. And it's yummy. Oh, the 10 was another really fun one from last week. I'm kind of recalling the ones that really stuck out. Simone, I think you were talking about how you channeled the 10, and it was very different from any other experience. So yeah, actually that one has stuck with me, the 10, and in particular the lines of the 10. And there's all sorts of directions we could go with that, but I don't want to monopolize conversation yet.
Yet.
Oh,
I don't on the table.
I don't want to knock you out of your beingness. Just be natural.
Be natural. I wonder what line you did. Oh, we weren't in the 10 transit. You were just channeling the 10. So it wasn't like 10. Yeah, because that was last year. So we were just catching up on that. I was like curious. I wonder what line was coming through, because the 10 is the expression, is like the behavior of the self. So like it was kind of behaving in a certain way. So like, what was it expressing?
It was, I mean, I in some ways I felt like the 10 was spanking me.
That's naughty.
Reprimanding me and calling me on the carpet, but it was the most exciting. Like I was like, yes, please. It was so exciting to be with the 10. Like, I'm okay with being reprimanded and going with it. Having fun, Bella, and Bella, you got like, because Bella's always listening, and like, if I know you guys know Bella, but I mean, she can listen like nobody's business. She may be looking down, but do not mistake.
She hears everything. Look at her. She's now you're just laughing. Sometimes Bella, you sit there and you're like, just we're gonna crack her. We're gonna crack Bella.
She does not miss anything. She's gonna come on like a viper, and it's like, she's not missing it. I don't care if it's a word or your eyebrow or you know, like your hair kind of did that. Like, she's not missing it. She hears it all. And so I'm always like, so sometimes Bella goes off camera when we're doing the soul conversations, which was actually very hard for me at first, because like at first I really needed her to be there. Like, it was a reassuring face, but she made this choice to go off camera. But I got used to it, and I know she's there. I know she's listening to everything. I can feel her. I feel so supported by her. So the 10 is taking me to task. Bella, disconnect.
Oh no.
Bella's like, I'm not going there. That 10 is a little bit bossy.
If I had in my wildest dreams thought she wasn't there while I was being taken to task by the 10, I probably would have freaked. I probably would have, I don't know what I would have done, but it was kind of funny, right? When you came on and
I feel still some like reverence and like honoring of where we were right before here. So for me, there's depth in that. And it's, you know, like now, you know, you had a contagious laugh, Simone. So I kind of came in with you to that. But before that, I felt like this reverence for the work that we are doing, and for the challenge that we all face. And I feel a little bit with your story, Simone, that you're speaking about that place of like, you realized you were alone on StreamYard, and that, you know, you were holding everything. And that is the place where we can collapse, we can freeze, we can get numb, we can do all these things that are kind of just going to do more of the same, so that next time we don't want to do it alone either. But the fact that like, when we can, you know, breathe into that reality, okay, I'm alone, and we can come back to our body as much as saying, okay, I'm experiencing nervousness, I'm experiencing feeling not supported, whatever it might be, and recognize that that's just something passing. Like that is creating, like that is growing, that's maturing the self in a good way, right? So what I am feeling is that's what we were speaking about right before, Tim. Like we were speaking about those moments of challenge when we can go into autopilot. And I know you having the 24 as life's work, you have so many possibilities or risks of going into loops of addictions or loops of patterns. And so for me, that the process of pausing, pivoting, and merging is for me like the 24 is the king of that process. And I was feeling like I can feel in my chest still the importance of that process, and of not in a way just saying it so fast, and you know, so nobody, you know, I really felt it's so important to understand, because what I have felt like in my work with trauma as well, it's like when we can sit in the body, still be there and track, I am not the fear, I'm not the anxiety, I'm not the discomfort, it's there, you know, and I can see it. And that for me is the place of, that is the portal to embodiment. That is a place of wanting to be here a little bit more than we choose to be numb, than we choose to freeze. And even from that place, we can actually track the numbness and see, okay, thank you, body, you're keeping me safe. This is what you're doing from other times when I wasn't safe, you know, when I couldn't hold myself. Mm-hmm. So that feels so important for me. And like, you know, I'm still in that energy of feeling that I can become a spokesperson, you know, through my own experience. You know, it hurts inside, because it's such an important process, you know, to be able as humans to come back to that place and find home inside. Like that's so important. And yeah, I guess I just want to like pause, and feel into that.
Hmm.
And for me, that's a thank you to my body, and to, like, I feel a thank you, and I don't know if it's to that compassionate witness that is able to do that and not collapsing. I don't know if the gratitude is that I'm able to sit here with you right now and speak about this, that is of like such an importance for me, although I don't really have the words for it. And it probably brings us back to the 10. That's our naturalness of human beings, like self-regulation, to be able to breathe and feel what's going on. That's the naturalness of the human being. Come back to behavior that serves you. And in those moments when we feel that we might freeze, if Simone can just like, come back to her senses and allow the sensations to be there. Like, I don't think anybody even noticed that she, freaked out in a way. And that's for me, like, now that the fact that I was able to sit with this and allow this emotion to pass through and be like, feel my gratitude and feel the importance in my emotions. Like, now I can laugh, like, now I can be with you. Now I feel like we can play around. But I had to express that. That was important for the truth of who I am and the truth of what I stand for.
So
Thank
good.
you so much for being in your naturalness
Yeah.
and taking us there. It was so beautiful. At the end of the call, you of quantum prosperity, you said, Simone, I feel like you have something to say, and what I wanted to say was, and we were getting to the end, and so I just thought, oh, all in divine timing, and here it is. I'm going to share it. Was that when we were talking about that, what I was having the experience of is just really slowing things down, because you were using the example of going to the refrigerator, like, because your mom gave you an ice cream or a chocolate to soothe you, when you were a little girl, and finding yourself going to the refrigerator. And we've talked about that, you and and I know, because I've said to you, yeah, I right after that call, I went to the refrigerator, and we've had the conversations. And what I'm noticing is that when I just slow everything down, what is the rush? What is the rush? Can I slow everything down and see what happens? And imagine, I've been playing with this over the last couple of days, just really just putting myself in slow motion, like reaching for something. But in that slowing down, so much is coming through. So much possibility is coming through,
Yes. The thing is, it's not about speed at all. Only at first is it about slowing down. But the real question is the distinction between quantity and quality. That's really what it is about. And quantity spends a lot of time moving very quickly on the surface, trying to gather as much as it possibly can, right? Whereas quality is less concerned with how much it can gather, and it's more concerned with how deeply it can experience. So it's less about how much can I accomplish in a day, and it's more about how fully can I experience this day. These are really big differences, and they're powerful distinctions. We get to experience life as something that's rich. And I believe that the expansion of that richness is infinite. I don't think we ever master this.
I think it's both, Tim. For me, I hear what you're saying, but there's something else here that's going on. And to me, it has to do with the parasympathetic or the sympathetic response.
Absolutely.
So, when you know, yes, I get what you're saying about quality versus quantity, but there's also something about we have traumas that are in us, and we've developed this skill set of toolkit of, moving through life to not face those. And
Distraction. Mhm.
right. And so, putting on the gas or putting on the brake, for me, the slowing down is putting on the brake and giving myself the time.
Yes,
And that might be tied to quality,
it is.
right? That giving myself the time to have the experience without, putting on the gas. And yeah, that, I guess that's, so I
They
think
go
it's,
together.
yeah.
They go together because once you tap that quality as a result of the pause point that Bella mentioned, as a result of the slowing down that you're referring to,
Yeah.
then you access timelessness, and that richness negates the question of time. And it really does. I know sometimes we can have these conversations and it can seem inaccessible. Oftentimes, I think when we're speaking about spiritual ideals, they can feel so out of reach. And so that's a trick to discuss them, because I know that each one of us on this call is discussing them from a place of direct personal experience. They're not out of reach. We're normal people. We haven't been meditating in a cave somewhere on Mount Everest for 20 years. We have ordinary, sometimes
I have lots
boring.
of secrets. I just want to say.
Yeah. Fine, 5 years.
I heard speak for yourself. I'm like,
Yeah, what?
Who said that? One of you guys.
Probably all of our past lives or something, who knows. Yeah, the point is all of these things are within reach. And actually what's so amazing is that what both Bella and Simone have referred to are perfectly accessible doorways to the depth that I'm referring to. It is a matter of slowing down. This is the practical application, the way that we move from our typical way of more or less unconsciously moving from one experience to the next, to actively, proactively engaging with the totality of our experience. It's so important. This is actually something that that's been very alive for me this past several weeks in particular, because I've been recording an awful lot of body keys readings. I record these audio readings in the same room that we're speaking in right now. And I just pace around the room with some incense going, and I record these conversations. And in every case, I'm realizing, my goodness, this is really simple stuff. I don't know why it feels like a new revelation every time, but it's so counterintuitive that it does, in fact, feel like a new revelation every time. There's no actual hard work to be done here. There's one primary step, which is to pause. That space between when we recognize that we've become overwhelmed, whether it's a trauma response or a relational trigger, or simply being mentally overwhelmed by the project at hand, to notice that that's occurring, that there's tension building, and then to just pause, to take that breath. What it does is it opens the eye, it opens awareness. And the moment that we can begin to see what's happening, things begin to shift. It's really rather simple. Now, systems like the body keys are useful because they give us something to turn our attention toward. And this is something else I think that has been just kind of blowing my mind. There's one pattern in particular that I've come back to over and over again over the past week. It's the pattern of relational discord. Relational discord. So discord is kind of what we were talking about earlier. I think Bella mentioned it. There's this tendency to want to like lean in, and Simone, this is something you could have totally done. You have two different options. You're either going to lean in and try and fix or solve or figure something out, whether it's a conversation or a debate or a problem that you're trying to solve. You're gonna bear down on it and try to solve it, or you're going to withdraw. So these are the patterns of discord and the pattern of isolation. That's what occurs when we push harder and we work harder and apply effort from that place of tension. We actually expand discord in the relationship. Again, whether we're relating with a project that we're trying to accomplish or another person, this pattern of discord is interesting to me because it's always well-intentioned, almost always well-intentioned. You're trying to fix or to solve, when in fact, it's the starting position that is setting everything at odds. If you're already tense, if you're already flooded with intense emotions and mental overwhelm, you've been disconnected from those parts of yourself which are capable of effective processing, creative thinking, compassion. So the pause point opens the possibility for that reconnection. And the final point that I'll make on all of this is, again, it comes back to what you shared, Bella. In every case, it's the fear of feeling that disconnects us from our experience. And it's the willingness to come back down into our experience and allow that feeling to have its total life within, even if it's uncomfortable, on the understanding that these feelings are moving. They're breathing through us at all times. If we can have the courage to allow ourselves to feel, that's what we're doing when we press pause. We're coming back down, we're letting the silt settle, and then it moves. And awareness arrives in every case on the other side of that. So it's a powerful process, but man, is it a simple one. Simple is not equivalent to easy, but it is very simple.
Yeah. Can I just share something as we're like reflecting back on everything that's happened over the past like 30 minutes, 25 minutes. So the whole process you just described, and I'm going to repeat it. The fear of feeling disconnects us from our experience. And it's about the courage to feel in the pause. So what happened in the beginning of this, and as Bella like kind of like, wake up, Bella kind of snapped it out of this and is like, no, let's be in this. Like, she's an advocate for being in the void, in the pause, and in the wound, in all the places and spaces in the body. And so what happened is, we went through quantum prosperity. We had about an hour. I don't know why we always think that we can get through things in an hour, because we never can. It's like an hour and a half is kind of like the really like to be able to wind down and complete. And for me, completion is really big for me, because 42, it's like, let's get to the end of the travel of the journey and like close and end. And it didn't quite feel like completion to me. But we had a commitment. And so we completed and said and invited, come to this conversation. And this is a perfect example about how we avoid fight, flight, whatever in the void, and we don't want to pause. So what I was observing in me and Simone's interaction, as Simone was giggling and laughing, and I'm like, fuck, this is transmutation. Like, this is what's happening right now, is I'm super uncomfortable, and I'm like making a lighthearted joke about everything, because I'm like, I feel uncomfortable because I didn't complete. I didn't finish. My culture sphere is like, we didn't complete. This isn't done. And so I'm feeling that discomfort, but I don't want to feel it. I'll go straight to like a joke. Like, I'm just going to laugh about things, because you just got to laugh about the situation. Can't do anything about it. Let me just transmute my EQ, 47.1. Okay, I'm uncomfortable. Let's transmute this puppy. And so Simone and I are talking about the 10, I'm laughing. And as Simone is really in the laughter, I stop. I'm like, it's not that funny to me. And I'm sitting there observing, because I'm feeling her defined emotional center. And she's like very passionately laughing. And then I'm like looking at Bella. I'm like, Bella's not laughing. What the fuck's happening here? And I'm like so intoxicated with like the distraction of this transmutation process that I'm on. I'm not saying Simone is like an accomplice. Like, she doesn't know what's happening. She's in her own process. I'm in my process. I snap out of it. I'm like, fuck, look at Bella. She's not laughing. How can I make Bella laugh? Bella, come laugh with us. She's not laughing. She doesn't want to budge. She doesn't want to do anything. And I'm like, oh my God, are we doing something wrong? And I'm in my IQ, like 18.1. I'm like, am I doing something wrong? I don't know what's happening. What should I be doing here? And then the expectations come up for me. And then Bella starts to talk about being in the body and the whole pause. And I'm like, okay, I can totally see how I'm trying to transmute this uncomfortable feeling through laughter and kind of like making things lighthearted, because it felt so dense. And like, we did not complete quantum prosperity. That's what it felt like. We didn't complete quantum prosperity. There's way more shit that we could have gone into, but we didn't finish it. So my 42 is kind of like, you will do not pass go, do not collect $100. And that was my discomfort. And as you guys were talking, my book was flipping by itself to different pages, and I was just reading like the notes, and it was so crazy how like on point it was. I was just sitting there like, okay, God, what is the message here? And it was crazy how on point it was with everything. And then I flipped to it. I didn't flip. It flipped to 5, which says to wait with a proper attitude invites the assistance of a higher power. I'm like, okay. because I had this thing that I wanted to share. I'm like, oh my God, I see this awareness and I want to share it, but it's not the right time because other people want to go. And one of the things was like, unity, come into unity, listen to what they're saying. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen to what they're saying. And I let go of me saying all of this right now. And I just put it over here. And I'm like, if I'm meant to share this, I'll share it. And then as soon as Tim, you were going through these like quotables, and I was like, I gotta write this shit down. And then you said the courage to feel in the pause. I'm like, that's what Bella was modeling. Cause she was feeling, and she's like, why are you guys laughing? There's nothing to laugh about. We need to be in this pause. And like, that's what brought me to the awareness of what just happened is when Bella was like, pause. I'm like, okay, Bella, I'll do what you say, pause. And then I just looked back and I'm like, fuck, this is what just happened. And I love how things manifest so quickly. It was uncomfortable, but I love Bella can stay in her integrity in what she, you know, I'm going to be in the pause. Like, stop laughing. Like, what the fuck are you laughing about? I don't know what I'm laughing about. I'm transmuting energy, but that was my personal experience. And I'm so glad to be able to have this kind of epiphany and see my process when I'm like in the wound of, I didn't complete. Oh my God.
Yeah, and for me, I'm just gonna say, when y'all went to the 10 and you start talking about the soul conversation, I was right back in that soul conversation, because that soul conversation for me was so incredibly powerful. It is like a movie that is playing in me, that I can feel the 10 and what it was talking to me about. There's certain, you know, I don't remember all the soul communications I do, but I remember the 57 running naked down the street. And I remember I just thought that was, but the 10 was so incredibly different, because the 10 taught us something, you know, about soul conversation. And I remember all the things that I was feeling. And if you go back and watch the soul conversation with the 10, I tell myself, like, you know, the 10 is saying things to me, and I just say them, like, I call myself out, you know, because I'm able to be in that place. And it was really fascinating one. I'm still processing it, but I do remember that moment at the end where I'm like, Bella, he's not there. So for me, I was right back in the 10 while simultaneously, you know, feeling Bella's need to process in her body. And I think that's something interesting for me, because I can be in my own experience and realize that that's where I was. And while simultaneously honoring that she's in a different place, and it's all in the field. And when Bella took us to that place, it was so powerful and wonderful. And I'm so grateful that she did bring us around and I got to feel it. But for me, sometimes I'm in a different place, and I don't need to make myself right or wrong. I don't feel bad that I was laughing, because I was right there in that experience of the 10. And then I could be right there with her in her body. And it was such a beautiful moment.
So the 10, I have to admit, I've been thinking a lot about the 10. First of all, I don't know if everyone here maybe realizes how important the 10 is. And I would be curious to know too, especially I think from Bella and Ashley from I think a more mechanical perspective. Is it just me, or is the 10 like a critical point in the body graph? I mean, it functionally speaking, it connects to more other gates than any other gate. It's really dynamic in this way. There's a lot happening in the 10. And I was thinking about the 10 specifically because Bella and Simone recorded their conversation on the 2-5 profile, which is my profile. And so I was thinking about that and kind of how it feels to wear that profile and everything. And I was reminded that all of these profiles, all of the line themes, they gather their themes from the 10th gate. It all comes from the 10th gate. We learn about the line themes from the 6 lines of the 10th gate. It's remarkable. So that in and of itself is interesting, and probably I think maybe a technical detail that's missed by a lot of people. especially those who are new to this study. And then the final thing I'll share is that there was a process a year and a half ago, perhaps, it's been some time now, where I contemplated the 6 lines of the 10, specifically because I picked up on this kind of, I don't know, I've never heard anyone else talk about it, but this little tip, I guess, that there are genetic behaviors, what I call behavioral codes, written into the 6 lines of the 10. And those behavioral codes are, of course, then encoded into our profiles. So each one of us carries these behavioral tendencies on a genetic level. Fascinating. So I've been like really with this. It's kind of just been that 24. It's just whirring up there. The gears have been turning. So that's certainly a direction we could go, whether tonight or a different night. But I've never spoken about it before in public. It kind of deserves to be like discussed. So anyway, I'll pause there because I would like to hear if it's just me or if the two of you have also picked up on like, oh man, there's something kind of unique happening here in the 10 on a functional level.
First, just going back to your body graph, Tim, I think you have it 4 times because you have it in the outer planets. You're born in 88, right? So where is it that you have it?
I can pull it up. Is everyone comfortable with sharing screen share?
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe I could pull it up so that our guests can actually see. This is another thing that I don't often do, but I don't understand why exactly. So let's make it, make it accessible. Okay. I'm gonna share this real quick. All right, so here's a picture of me. Again, it's not as though our listeners have all 4 of our charts, but I'm about as close to a reflector as a person can get. And because the single channel that I have is half conscious and half unconscious, both my body and mind are actually functionally reflectors. So there's a certain function that I get to serve, a way that I get to contribute to our group of 4 here that is very different from the other 3 charts in this BATS group. So I love that I get to be so open, and so different from the rest of you in that way. The 4 10s are down here. Mm-hmm. Yep. And this is typical of people born around this time of this year, 1988. Bella, you like to mention that. I guess you're used to seeing it. Yeah. Now, it's worth noting that 2 of these 4 10s are in Saturn. And this is a really pivotal point in the chart as well. There's so many like fun things we could nerd out about when it comes to, reading these body graphs, but that's the answer to your question. And I'm curious to know why you asked if there was somewhere you were leading with that.
Because I do feel for you have it in a defined center. So it's something that is, your energy going out in the world. And I feel like it is important because you have it there is a generational aspect, of course, but I do believe that the Saturn, there's just something there. And I don't know why I've had so many people from 88 in my life. So I feel like when I see a chart like that and I see so many 10s, that there is something important. And then knowing it's also Ashley's purpose. So there is something here with the 10. And I had a conversation before today with somebody who had the 10 3 times. I would go wouldn't go to body graph. Like my input right now with it would be, it's a role of the self. And what I've been preparing with what we are going to do, all of us, when we're going to take the next journey through the wheel, is that where does it start? Like it does start in Aries gates, right? It starts in gate 3. And I also Ron is still on. So I also had a conversation with Ron about that, like the progression, you could say, of the wheel. So what I feel, the role of the self, like when we come in, Aries, individuality, like coming into a body, being a soul that's completely open, coming into a body, like that first place we have to build in order to be able to have relationships, in order to be able to go to the underworld, even in order to be able to have, true union. You have to know the self first. And that's where I feel the 10 is crucial. And it doesn't matter actually that it's not there in the wheel, but as a developmental part in our process, building that self is crucial. if we are going to live and interact in this world. And I don't think that any of us would have had comfortable, being here live, jumping in the way we did today, if we hadn't built that role of the self first, so that we can be in interdependence. Like we have that first. So that's, for me, in this context, how the 10 stands out for me.
It's great. Ashley, did you have anything to add? I'm curious to know, especially given the placement of that 10 in your experience.
I mean, yeah, being in my purpose sphere, all I know is that I just need to be myself without apology. And however I am is how I'm supposed to be. And so I find myself looking back at like what was said and the whole thing with this conversation. I'm like, I'm not wrong. Like Simone always directs us back to, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's not wrong. And I don't know, there's something coming up for me, because I don't know why I feel like I need to be right. Like I don't know why I feel like I need to do things right. It may be the expectation thing. Like I want to be who somebody wants me to be. And after I went through my whole thing, there was like little, like, I don't know why I felt like I needed to share it. And at first I put it down, and then I was like, okay, I'll let it come through. But then there was no recognition. It went straight to like other and I was like, okay, it was for me, and for whoever else, but I didn't need recognition from you guys. And then somebody messaged us privately. They're like, stop saying the F word. And I'm like, I was saying that. And then I was like, I mean, sometimes it comes through me. And then at first I was like, oh my God, should I not be saying that? And then I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna say what I want to say. And that was my reaction to that. And I was like, why would somebody not like, and then I was like, okay, that's not for me, because my open throat, it just comes out. And if it triggers, then that's for you. If it triggers, it's for you. And it doesn't, I don't feel shame about saying fuck or anything like that. And I know that professionally there's these shoulds, right? And if it's going to go on a podcast, and like, that's fine. But I mean, there's something where I was judging myself, and then I immediately got a judgment, and I was like, oh my God, the manifestation field is like popping here for me. And I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. But I just need to be myself and not repress myself because somebody wants me to be that projection field, who I want to be. Who do you want, how do you want Ashley to be? That projection, who did you think I was going to be? And then I like surprise you and shock you, and you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted you to be. Sorry to disappoint you. And I think that's what I struggle with my life, is the disappointment that comes when people have expectations of me that I don't fulfill. And then I hear later, like, I don't normally hear people's disappointments of me. And I had a friend come to me and be like, I have clients who say you trigger the shit out of them. I'm like, nobody ever tells me that I trigger them. Nobody tells me I trigger them. And to hear that, I'm like, okay, is that a fifth line thing? Like, people don't outright come and tell me things, but I always ask the universe, tell me, like I told you, Simone, I told you and Bella, please call me out on whatever, if I'm in the shadow or whatnot. Like, sometimes I can't recognize that. And also my 10 being unconscious, I don't always recognize who I am. That's what woke me up, is who am I? I was a should. You should go to college. You should get married. You should have kids. And then I had all that, and I'm like, I don't feel fulfilled. And I feel guilty for not feeling fulfilled, because that's who I was supposed to be. And here I am being who I'm supposed to be. And then I go on the search of, well, who am I? Trying to figure it out.
I just want to affirm, when you were talking, 3 eagles in unison flew by my window.
Wow.
And right when you were like claiming the truth of who you were, and saying, this is who I am. And I was,
that's my unconscious north node, the 17. I always think of it as like the eagle, like, oh, right, I'm accessing my north node. Yes.
Just I was like, I just want to, you know how powerful for both of us animal spirit guys are. And I'm like, okay, there's 3 of them. That's no joke, right? When she is claiming the truth of who she is. So yeah. And one of the things I've said this so many times, but it's true. Actually, it's so inspiring to me. You will process, and in our team, Bella has said, like she'll say, let's look at this. It's always very kind. But one of the things I love about you is how well you can hold that. It is really, truly incredible to watch that,
Self-honesty.
yeah, exactly. I've never seen anyone so much as you be able to receive constructive criticism or input and really not go to the place of victim, really go to the place of empowerment of like, let me contemplate this, let me process this, and you'll process it out loud. And I've learned so much from that, from you, because for me, all that's internal, and I haven't had maybe, I maybe with you guys I do, but it's really a beauty to watch for the world. It's something I just really love about you.
Thank you.
Mm.
It's I won't process by myself, and so when you guys give me the space to do this, and you guys are, I almost said simultaneously. I'm jacking your words, Simone, and simultaneously. Take your words.
Oh.
My open throat's like
Take
yum,
your
yum, yum,
words.
yum, yum, yum. Give me that word. I love when you guys be yourself and bring yourself to the table, because then I like that contrast also lets me like sink into like what feels right for me. Oh crap, I was trying to be somebody else, not myself. Like I was trying to, I don't know. Sometimes I can recognize the projection field, and then like, yeah, I'll feel that expectation. I'll be that. I'll be that. And it's really refreshing to be able to like watch somebody in integrity and be like, oh, okay, that's what that looks like. But that doesn't make me wrong either. But I did go to the place of I must be wrong. That's what, like, this whole process. This is me processing this whole situation. My head has been pounding. I'm like, shit, when I'm not laughing and transmuting, I'm have such a huge headache. And I'm sitting here with my headache and I'm like, this is because I'm sitting in the wounding. It's because I'm in my body. Thank you everybody for letting me be in my body, because now I know I got a headache.
Well, I guess I'm in your body because I've been feeling like, what the hell is this headache back here? It's like,
Is yours in the back of your head? Yours is
it's like hot, coming off, and I was like, I didn't have a headache. Well, I didn't eat anything that would give me a headache. What's going on? So, I'm in your body too.
You're in my body too. You're feeling the feels.
Ashley, what you shared is perfect. I mean, first of all, you're modeling the very thing that Bella modeled for us at the very start. You recognized all of this, you pressed pause. Even when you felt that immense pressure to like break in and start sharing, you decided to wait. You're modeling the pause. Modeling the pause is allowed for the processing, which has allowed for the breakthrough. Anyone who's with us on this call is seeing this play out in real time. They're also seeing how much time it takes, which is not all that much if you think about it, right? We talk about processing traumas and these horrible past experiences with deep roots and childhood wounding, these big words. We're doing the work right here before your eyes. Ashley is showing you what that means. Ashley, you said that you saw our integrity. I'm over here going, you're the one modeling integrity through that self-honesty, through that willingness to communicate and process and feel the headache. It's so perfect. And I guess I'm mentioning the body keys a lot tonight. I hope it doesn't feel like I'm, like I was prepped for a shameless plug or something, but I can't help but see your profile, because yours, one of the things that made yours so special to me was one pattern in particular, which amazingly comes out of this 10th gate. And it's the pattern, a very rare one, statistically rare anyway. It's the pattern of the stuckness pattern of criticism or self-criticism. And you're literally over here criticizing yourself. Self-criticism is always going to have its roots in feeling like you've not only done something wrong, but worse than that, a feeling that somewhere deep down inside, you are wrong. There's like something about you that is just broken or flawed in some way. It's a really deep wound if ever we were to talk about one. And yet on the other side of this pattern, the pattern of self-criticism, by the way, connects to the pattern of melancholy, which can feel like a deep, dark hole and expand into depression. We've discussed this in the past. It's connected to the pattern of compromise, where you have an awareness of self and you compromise it on behalf of others or propriety or whatever, right? Don't use the F word, right? Quick, put Ashley in a tiny box. These patterns, I can imagine a whole life played out in the tiny, tiny cage of these patterns. And here on this call, you've demonstrated what it looks like to notice the pattern, to press pause when you do, and then to arrive at the expression of the gifts, which in every case are waiting on the other side. And do you know what those gifts are? It's so exciting. The gifts are, first, the gift of gentleness. So on the other side of self-criticism is gentleness. What a surprise, right? Gentleness, that inner softening. It's the gift of originality. You have a way of expressing you. There's the naturalness we've been talking about all night. And finally, sovereignty. Sovereignty. There's your integrity. There's the what you've been modeling, this ability to stand up into your own shoes, get up onto your own 2 feet, and regardless of how it might look to anyone, owning what is yours, even if it's a little shitty at first, but owning it fully so that you can express in a way that touches every single person on this call and every single person who's going to listen to it. So I just have to celebrate you. All of that, I guess, is a long-winded way of saying, wow, thank you. Thank you for modeling the very thing.
I receive it. I receive it. And I always feel so seen and uplifted with all of you. Like, you all are, and this is the feeling that I want to feel. And this is the feeling that I struggle with in other relationships, because when you're not coming to the table, owning your own stuff, there's so much blame and projection. And then you're like, I'll do the same thing. You're going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then you get in the, but this is such a good reference point for me for what it is like to be in this kind of conversation and have this space for like breakthrough and resolution. A lot of my stuff in my personal life, the biggest problem is there's no resolution. And then the criticism like goes round and round, and it's hard to be gentle to myself and to others. But this has been like strengthening that muscle of like, how do I be? How can I just be myself and bring myself to the table and not need to be someone for somebody else or show up in a certain way, or be misunderstood. But I don't never feel misunderstood by you guys. I always feel like we get to that place and we arrive at understanding. At least I do. And that's like my motivation point is I just want to understand. I want to understand who I am. I want to understand being in that naturalness, because that's what makes me feel so happy, is when I can just be myself. And yeah.
First line.
First line.
I want to say something to be transparent too. I felt uncomfortable before. And I feel like this is a perfect like thing too that I'm that I want to tie it into, because it's also so timely. Like I felt uncomfortable a little bit when Simone jumped in fast and kind of responded to you, Ashley, saying, well, I was in my integrity. Because even if that was the truth, like I felt like you were recognizing something really important. And in one way, you were actually kind of thanking me as well. So I would have loved a little bit to stay in that feeling and to allow that, because I'm a 4/6, to allow that to like kind of transpire in the aura of who we are. And this brings me back to Simone having written the email to our community this week and told me and us in calls on other things, like, I'm still in all this thing about hurry, eat up your food before it gets cold. Like that's the thing there. And that's where I feel like the 4/6 can sometimes be perceived as arrogant, because why jump in so fast and say that you were in integrity? That was not needed. If you were really in integrity, maybe that wasn't needed. And it goes to this point, and this is me again, like kind of feeling a little bit of pressure in that transparency, where I sometimes feel with you, Simone, I know that you can hold a certain frequency, but sometimes when I feel like your autopilot is like beauty, like sometimes I just want to sit in the ugliness. I just want to sit in the not hurry. And I just want to like savor that moment. So I feel that there's some process here where I look in myself in the hurry and the choosing of beauty. The first gene key is my evolution. And it's easy for me to choose beauty. There is something here where I feel there's something for us, and something for the 4/6 that always wants resolution, that always have a beautiful vision. And somehow I feel like sometimes it's good to be in the lower lines before we bring the resolution. Can we just sit with that agitation before we bring it. That's what I'm feeling into right now in like all transparency, you know, love.
I appreciate that. And it makes me think, oh, well, maybe I dip down into the interference of the 44, you know, and I can I can pause and really contemplate, when do I do that? Because you know, maybe, you know, so much, how much hurrying up is a conditioned response. And so, yeah, I appreciate you calling me out and saying, hey, let's look at this. And I might not process like Ashley does. You know, sometimes my processing is internally, but I can look at that and say, okay, I need to maybe think about, when do I use hurrying up as interference in my team? And I'm like, now I'm contemplating, where else might I.
And Simone, I don't feel it's in the team usually. I feel like, and now I don't want to go into any kind of like, you know, I don't want to therapist you, but I feel the need to say, I feel like it's you, like you're running past yourself. And there is something where you're running away a part of yourself, like by going to like to beauty, for example. Like there is something with that, because I hear you saying over and over again, I have to have beauty around me. I choose beauty. There's just something that's connected to my evolution, you know. There's something here, and the void came up in the call today, kind of as a word, you know, that was there that we had to unpack. So there is something with that first gene key that I feel like you and I are for sure, like there's some kind of braid, but I think it has to do with the 10, the role of the self. It was perfect for Ashley that you gave her that hurry up in a way, you know, but I feel like there are layers to this. So I
completely. And I'm with you, and I thank you. I am really working. I've actually been composing, downloading a story for our group about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And I had a very powerful experience this weekend where I understood that from the time I was in the womb, my sympathetic and my parasympathetic were pedal to the metal. Or basically, I've been in a car going down a hill with no brakes and no gas. And so, you know, this is thank you for that, because it just helps me in my contemplation of where it shows up. So
Thank you for showing people how to receive that too, Simone. I mean, as the fourth wheel in this, you know,
work with the car.
what's happened here between the three of you in this interaction. I'm outside of it. I'm looking at it. I know we've got 2 minutes. I'm keeping an eye on the time. I'm looking at it and I'm going, if I were in Simone's shoes, I'd have felt defensiveness, you know, or a need to defend. I don't know if that's what you're doing, but I know that if I were you in that position, I'd be like, oh crap, I shouldn't have laughed or whatever, you know. I'd have felt weird. I'd have felt off, you know. And so regardless of how you did or didn't feel, you know, personally, I think this conversation has gone exactly the way that it has needed to. I wouldn't change a thing of it. But just from an empathetic standpoint, I see every single one of you. And I think, wow, how amazing that we're now recording these conversations and calling it episode 3 of Together, and sharing this opportunity to witness ultimately the real work with a wider audience. It's so good. It's so good. And I'm so grateful to all 3 of you for showing up in the way that you have. I'm glad to be a part.
I'm going to own something, and that's this. It is so easy to receive all of you, because I trust you so much. And I can receive Bella when she says that, because I know she's saying that with her whole heart. And it's so You know, it's so easy. You know, it's hard, but it's easy to receive her because I know that she says that because she loves me and she loves her and she loves us. But I'm going to own that. Maybe if that message came from someone I didn't trust, that it might not have been like this, you know, that I could have gone to another place. But because I do trust her and you and Ashley and everybody who joins us in these conversations, I know her come from is love, and that means everything to me. So thank you.
Well done, everyone.
Well, it's 5 o'clock and we have come to our hour, and we thank you so much for being together with us. We love you guys.
Thank
It's
you.
better together.
It is better together.